So, I've been watching a lot of conspiracy videos lately. They're very interesting to me. I don't know. I think they're interesting to a lot of people based on the view count of all of them. A lot of conspiracies out there are just weird, but most of them, I would say most of them, have some validity to it. And I just have to point something out that I think most skeptics definitely ignore. And this is why the way I like to approach people whenever I'm talking about a conspiracy theory. And it's that you must admit, well, don't say must, especially if you're debating with somebody, but say something along the lines of a reasonable person has to admit that in a lot of these cases, it's either conspiracy or incompetence. In fact, I think a lot of conspiracies, this is me personally, are conspiracies to cover up, the reason they're conspiring is to cover up their own incompetence. A lot of these people, they want to cover up their own failures so that they can hold on to their jobs and their influence. I think that's a lot of the conspiracies out there, which still means it's a conspiracy. They're still conspiring, but they're not conspiring to commit the act itself. I mean, this isn't really an example of that, but let's just start with, recent stuff. So, the whole Hillary Clinton email server thing. Follow me here. Her whole argument, her whole debate, her defense literally is incompetence. That's her defense, is that she's incompetent at her job. I didn't know. I wasn't aware that I shouldn't have this server. Well, first off, there's ample evidence for the fact that you were made aware. But that's irrelevant here. You should have asked. You should have figured that one out. I mean, that's pretty obvious. You can't have your own server with secure documents outside of the... if you work at a secure facility, you can't even take, the laptops home. You can't take a hard drive. You can't take a floppy disk out of there without them checking it out and verifying. And usually they're still like, nope, you gotta open that floppy disk here, not at your own house. So, to think that she wasn't aware is pretty ridiculous. But that's her defense. Her defense is that she wasn't aware. Well, you're incompetent. That's incompetence right there. You didn't ask anybody. You didn't even think about it, really. You just did it on your own. You're incompetent. Flat out. That's what she says. That's her defense for the whole thing, is that I wasn't aware. Well, you're incompetent. So, best case scenario for you from this point is you'll never work in government again, because that's severe incompetence. Worst case, you're tried for treason, because we have ample evidence also that people hacked that server and foreign spies and assets were killed as a result of information found on that server by other countries. Whatever, irrelevant, You want me to go through more conspiracies? I got a long drive ahead of me. Why not? Let's see. Talk about JFK. Now, let's forget the magic bullet theory and all this physical evidence. Let's just look at it it's at least incompetence aspect. We know for a fact that Army intelligence and Army personnel were standing down that day. Normally, they would support the Secret Service when the president's in town, there's a public display and all this stuff. Think about how much security, the detail that they normally would have. They stood down that day. Okay. Why? We don't know. It's a bit of incompetence. You're not looking good in front of the boss the next day after you were like, no, stand down, guys. And then the president's shot. So, there's some pretty heavy incompetence. What else happened? Well, they also didn't have their snipers in place on the route like they normally would have. They changed the route to take that awkward turn around Daly Plaza. Again, I'm not saying that this was all a conspiracy. I'm saying it was either a conspiracy or incompetent people. What else? Well, Lee Harvey Oswald was a Marine, either Marine or Army, I'm pretty sure Marine, who defected to Russia at the height of the Cold War. This isn't him going and visiting Russia. He defected. He gave up his United States citizenry or citizenship, went there, married a woman from the Soviet Union, and then was just allowed back in the country, no questions asked. That's incompetent. That's pretty incompetent. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's some severe incompetence right there. How was he just allowed back in the country, no questions asked? Well, it's either a conspiracy or he's or there's some pretty heavy incompetence going on. I can go on. Let's do some more. So the moon landing. Who knows if we landed on the moon? It's so funny to me. We give, 26 billion a year to NASA? So they say themselves that we don't have the technology anymore to go to the moon. We had it and we lost it. What happened to it? We lost it. Wait, what do you mean? What about the telemetry data and all the information and the heat shields and all this jazz to get through the Van Allen belt? Yeah, we don't have it anymore. Lost it. That's not all. Actually, if you want proof that we went to the moon, just believe us, because we taped over the videotapes from the moon landings. That's right. In order to save money in the 80s, NASA taped over the videotape of the moon landings. 24 billion a year. They couldn't afford more VHS tape. What are you talking about? You taped over the moon landing tapes to save money? What? That's what NASA says. This isn't just what I'm saying. I don't know. What do I know? This is what NASA tells us they did. We don't have the technology anymore. Had it, lost it. You're incompetent. Fire those people. Get better people in there. Or we're cutting your funding. I mean, are you kidding me? And people aren't made aware of this, or they're made aware of it and they're just, whatever, I'm gonna keep watching TV and sports and ignore all this stuff that really matters. I mean, we can keep going. We can keep going on and on and on and on and on about every conspiracy out there, and how with the vast majority of them, and I'm not talking about like Bigfoot conspiracies and things like that. I'm typically talking about government or cover-up or things like that conspiracies. You have to admit that it was either incompetence or a conspiracy, or conspirators covering up their incompetence. What about 9/11? Oh, I don't know. We are only warned by multiple sources about these people training in Florida from Saudi Arabia on how to fly 747s, but not really caring much about how to land them. That was a little weird. Our intelligence agencies were aware of them. We have the paperwork. Condoleezza Rice was well aware, and they did nothing. We were warned there was Osama bin Laden, an attack on the 9/11, on the World Trade Centers was pretty much imminent. Like, this is all public knowledge. And yet, nothing really was done. I mean, I'm pretty sure Dick Cheney ordered like a counterintelligence practice or awareness, something, whatever, drill, whatever you want to call it, that day, the day of 9/11. Like, what? I'm not saying it was a conspiracy. I'm saying that's incompetent. You're telling me that we were warned about these people ahead of time. You had all this knowledge and people saying, hey, I've been doing my job and trying to figure out what's going on here. And I think I know what's going on here. You should take a look at these guys. And does anyone take a look at them? No. Just, it's fine. Incompetence. We can keep doing this. The Vegas shooting. Look at this information they had on this Paddock. Look at who they were aware and tracking him, because he's probably most likely a gun runner. Oh my gosh, all this information, and nothing's done whatsoever. The late reaction time of the hostage wreckage or first responders. What's going on there? Look at the shooting at that school down in Florida, where all the activist kids came out afterwards with, oh, we had to get rid of guns, we got to get rid of guns. It's come out as a fact that those cops were standing down. They've proven this. They stood down there. That's incompetent. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. I'm saying it's incompetent. And people who are incompetent at that level need to be punished. I was in the enlisted military. You know how quickly you're punished when you're incompetent, when you're enlisted, when you're just low ranking? They'll send you to prison for taking pictures inside the engine room on a ship if you're an engineman in certain cases, and posting them online. Just you and your buddies in the engine room where you work every day at your shop. But yet, people with these high rankings who do much worse and much more incompetent things, do they get in any real trouble? No, we just move them to another job, move them to another position, shift them over, keep their pay the same, or increase it. I'm telling you, people, there's so much incompetence out there at high levels. Don't always jump on the conspiracy bandwagon that it's all evil, maniacal conspirators. That exists, don't get me wrong, but that's not always the case. So often the case is incompetent, lazy, selfish individuals being incompetent and then not giving a crap because they don't think that they're going to have to pay for their incompetence. You can roll your eyes and think what you want, but that is the case so often. Be aware of incompetence. Don't be a lazy person yourself, and call it out when you see it. It should be just as bad in a lot of these cases as conspiring. I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's the difference between manslaughter and murder one. Conspirator plans it out, whereas manslaughter, they just accidentally let it happen. It happens. But that's my rant for the day. Everybody have a great day. God bless.